All right, folks, it's time for World Politics. We're going to see who else joins us and all along those lines, and definitely have a great conversation. I know a lot of things are going on in the world, and all along those lines, I understand that Donald Trump earlier this week had a show where he was the host and everything like that. He was actually bragging on his hosting abilities and all in that space. So that's one of the things that I might bring Sasha Starr to talk about. And of course, we've got things going on with Ukraine, Russia, and China as well. And earlier I did hear World Edition where they were talking about the importance of Africa to the world and everything like that. I even heard Chris Greco talking about the whole notion of an African Union, but I do know that there's been talk of an African Union before as well. As a matter of fact, I think that Kenyatta, when he was running Kenya, had talked about there being a union of African countries, and that was probably back in the 60s or something along those lines. And of course, Marcus Garvey talked about it as well here in the United States when he was bringing people back from this area to the various countries there in Africa. But I'll bring Sasha Starr in so that we can talk about some of the things that he's got on his mind, including what's going on with this whole conversation around peace talks and everything like that, because I do know that they're still talking about peace in Russia and Ukraine, and that may come about before the end of the year. At least that's what Donald Trump says he wants and everything like that. But as Ivan had said earlier, he'd also said that he could do this from in the day of his coming into office, and he's almost been in office for not quite a year, but almost a year when we get to January of next year and everything like that. And it doesn't look like there's any peace in the future that I can see. But even though there's a number of things going on, including what's going on in the Latin American theater as well, because both Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth are in trouble because of their continuing to blow out ships in that part of the world and everything like that. So, Sasha, I hope you're doing well on this particular day. Everything's going well over here, but love to hear how things are going on in your world. As I know, we had the Ukraine show earlier, and that was a great video that Ivan brought that dealt with Chambers, so that it was a historical figure and how he had made a tactical decision that was totally wrong in the way he treated Hitler and everything like that. But how are you doing today? And looks like you've been a busy person. I know you were on the latter half of the World Edition. Unfortunately, that's when I was having technical issues, but those have been solved and everything like that. But how are you doing today?
Thank you, Mark. I'm doing okay. I was thinking a lot about the latest developments in Russia-Ukrainian war. And of course, I got familiar with Trump's new security strategy document. There are a lot of things that I really don't understand. Right now, situation is that United States do not provide any help to Ukraine. They are selling to Europeans its weapons, and Europeans are paying a full price for these weapons. There is no discounts or anything, no incentives or anything. They're paying full price, and then they're delivering these weapons to Ukrainians. So U.S. is making really good money on these transactions. Why Trump is so much against it? Why does he need all this peace, all this continuation, and talks about peace and so on? Do you understand, Mark? Do you have any ideas?
I don't understand the man in a lot of regards. It seems like he's also trying to piss off, and I'll just use that word, a lot of people, so including some that voted for him and some that he doesn't have any love for and anything like that. Because I heard earlier, I think it was yesterday, that he's even thinking about renaming the Kennedy Center to the Melania Trump Center and everything like that. So the man is definitely doing a lot of things that are for his own good and everything like that. So it doesn't seem like he has a idea of doing anything other than things that might help him, and all along those lines. So that's the impression that I get, is that he's definitely out for himself, and that seems to be where his mindset is and everything like that. But I'll bring him to Toby. Toby might have some ideas as well, but definitely it seems like he's very much engaged in anything he can do to help himself and everything like that. Because I did hear about him wanting to rename the Kennedy Centers after Melania Trump, his wife, and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. But it does seem like he's very much doing some odd things, including speaking to voters on affordability, as definitely the GOP is facing a tough midterm. But he was trying to say that that's a Democratic hoax, that people don't need to worry about that, and that it's just a word that Democrats are throwing around that doesn't have any real concerns. But most people I know are very much concerned about affordability. We're in the Christmas season, and I know some people that are probably curtailing their gifts because of not having money and everything like that. But that's what I've observed. But if you've got any other ideas, I'd love to hear them.
In terms of what Trump
Jacoby?
is doing,
Trump, yeah, what Trump's doing, right?
only to enrich himself. I mean, I don't know what the debate is. That's all he's doing. I mean, the amount of money that he's made this year just on all the stuff from crypto to he just enriched himself. He didn't care about anybody else.
And I think that's what Tasha was asking, is he was trying to understand the reasoning behind why he's doing what he's doing. And it sounds like you're saying what I'm saying, that it's all about him
He
himself.
pardoned a dude that was doing business with his crypto. He pardoned the guy from Honduras because evidently that's going to be geopolitical and it's dealing with the actual election that's going on. He bows down to Putin because he wants to put hotels in Russia. Saudi Arabia gave Jared Kushner $2 some odd billion. It's just money. He's transactional. The U.S. military is now a mercenary squad because he'll send them where everybody said. Whenever somebody says, "Hey, I'll give you some money," that's all it is. It's just money.
So he's all about money, and he's always been about money. I know some people that knew him in New York, and they said that he was that way even when he was there running businesses and everything along those lines. By the way, I just saw that it just came down off of the newswire that the Senate is to vote it on the GOP healthcare bill that does not extend expiring, does not going to expire the Obama tax care credit and everything like that. So it does look like a lot of people are going to have another issue that will impact their personal economies if they don't have the correct insurance and all along those lines, or even if they do have the correct insurance. So they haven't come up with a plan. I believe during the debate, they talked about a concept of a plan, and apparently the concept of a plan hasn't materialized and everything like that. Whereas on the other side, and I don't know if she's a Trump supporter or not, maybe one of you two knows and everything, but philanthropist Mackenzie Scott has given $7.1 billion to nonprofits in 2025. So that's a major increase. So apparently she's using some of her worth to help some of these nonprofits that have been hit by some of the Trump efforts, as well as efforts of other people as well. But it does look like she is putting some of her money on the line.
There's something else about Russia-Ukrainian war, that Trump is using the situation to go ahead and enrich himself and his buddies with possible deal with Putin. But for that, he needs to end the war. And it seems to me he's incapable of doing that in spite of all his efforts, incentives. And what's happened is that Ukraine is viewed by Europeans as their first line of defense against Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But now situation is deeper than that, because Putin, together with Trump, are trying to weaken not only Ukraine but even European Union as well. So there are about lines now becoming Ukraine and Europeans against Russians and Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's worrisome, because if you remember beginning of Second World War, on September 1st, Hitler attacked Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And until for more than 2 weeks, Poland quite successfully fight with Germans, better equipped and so on, but they were fighting until on September 17th, Soviet Union attacked Poland from another side, from the south and the east. They attacked Poland, and it was obvious that Poland could not fight both Germany and Soviet Union at the same time. They have to give up. So same thing has happened with Ukraine. It's very successfully for almost 4 years now is fighting Russians. But what would be very difficult for them to fight Russians and Donald Trump at the same time. That's becoming quite difficult.
Yeah, that would be very difficult.
Also, Sasha, I saw a report today, I mean, you were the first one that popped in my head on it, because I mean, I think we're in complete agreement to this, especially with what the Ukrainian lawyer talked about. Because the reason there's not that deal, or the deal isn't going through, which Trump is trying to tell him, take the deal or else, is the ceding land. And what the Ukrainian lawyer was talking about is that there's no law for them to give up land.
There's no legal mechanisms. There's
no
exactly way. Even if they wanted to give, okay, here's the land, take it. How? Based on what? On Trump wishes?
And then they were talking about how not only because of that, but then there are no securities in the plan. There's no way to stop it. Putin will come back again and just do the same thing because he's not being turned away. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea of what they're trying to force Ukraine to do.
Well, what's happening is that Russia does not control part of Donbass, where there are incredible fortifications near cities of Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. And this is defense not only for Donbass, but even for Kiev, because if they will penetrate somehow these fortifications, then they have a green light to go all the way to Kiev. So, but they cannot take over these fortifications. It's still there for when they started these attacks, Russians, in 2014. So it's almost 2026. So it's almost 12 years that Russians cannot take these fortifications. So now they want, thanks to Donald Trump, take it not by fighting, but simply that Donald says, okay, Ukraine, you give it to Russians, give it. So then it would open a green light. And without any securities guarantees, how Ukraine ever can do that over their dead bodies? They will never agree to that. But Trump doesn't, so he doesn't care, frankly.
Yeah, speaking of not caring, and I know a lot of times y'all talk on the various shows about NVIDIA, particularly Modern Investment. It'll come up tomorrow and everything like that. But I just saw earlier that their AI chips are going to be undergoing an unusual U.S. security review before export to China. So shipping chips from Taiwan to U.S. to China would allow the government to get 25% cut of the sales. So I was wondering your take on that, because it looks like this is another example of a way that Trump is figuring out a way to make money off of a very popular stock, because it seems like if this goes through and everything like this, that he's going to be able to get 25%, 1/4 of the sales of this very popular stock. So what is your take on this unusual security review?
I think that Trump is a little bit too late on that, because China and several companies like Huawei and others, they already have chips, even if they are not completely similar to NVIDIA, but they could be almost as powerful as NVIDIA chips, like Blackwell, I think it's a leading chip, but also they are way much cheaper than NVIDIA chips. So I think Trump is a little bit too late. And you know what, the NVIDIA, the president of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, he told Trump several months ago that don't stop the sales of American chips to China, because that will result in China developing their own chips, and soon they will be better and more powerful chips than what American have. So, in fact, you're hurting American chips producers much more than China. And now Trump finally maybe understood it, maybe not, but he's a little bit too late.
He's got
From
to
what I
keep.
also understood is that it's the chips that are now going to go through this or these special set of chips that are being sold. China's not buying them, and that's the biggest purchaser of these chips. And with a lot of the cars that they're putting out, a lot of the tech that they're putting out, especially because they're doing a lot with AI, a lot more than what we are.
Yeah.
So from what I've gathered, I mean, not only with Huawei and the other AMD is another competitor out there, they're going to flood the market now. So now I'm curious, and in your opinion, Sasha, how much that's going to hurt NVIDIA's stock?
Well, NVIDIA stock is, you know what, I think um, NVIDIA's management understand that they cannot, for the next 10 years, just produce more and more the same chips or so on. That's not how this industry works. What they're doing now, they're creating a deep integral partnerships with different high-tech companies, AI companies, or so on. So they're investing sometimes $5 billion or whatever, because for them it doesn't matter how much they invest, because they have enormous amount of cash available. So they're trying to diversify, they're trying to invest in different companies and so on. So their business model is changing, and that's a plus. But how Wall Street will evaluate this partnerships and so on, it's unclear. I'm not so sure. So far Nvidia holds its own. So far the opinion is that they're consolidating and they're ready to have another run pretty well soon. To tell the truth, I have no shares of Nvidia. I have shares of NVDY. It's a vehicle that based on Nvidia, what they're doing, they're selling covered calls and distribute every week dividends. So there, for example, tomorrow Wednesday. So Wednesday there will be announcement how much they will pay for last week. Thursday is the record date, and Friday is a payment date. So I think that this is. It's also risky, mind you. It's risky, but except fact that they're still paying dividends every week. So at least you're recovering at least part of your money through dividends, and hopefully it will still be worth something thanks to NVIDIA itself. Now, with NVIDIA, if there will be a market correction or anything like this, the stock, which is now 184, I believe it could go down to 165, maybe even 150. It could, and I said on my shows that in case of correction, NVIDIA stock could go lower. Frankly, they will not stay there much longer because, of course, demand for NVIDIA is still there, so they will recover, hopefully, very soon. But there is a danger of market correction and NVIDIA correction in this case, for sure.
It makes a lot of sense and everything. Another story that I saw, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, because we know, as we've said several times, that President Trump is making a lot of money off of different things, including some of the campaign finances. But apparently, the Supreme Court is weighing campaign finance limits, and it's actually in a GOP-backed challenge and everything. So, are we going to finally get some campaign reform? And if so, do we need campaign reform? And what
Well,
is your take on this?
what
Because it's going
what the Republican Party is actually fighting for
to. Mhm.
is to uncap, or is to take the cap off. There is a cap and limit that you can hit in terms of campaign contributions and so on and so forth. What they did before is they took away and made it, you can't find out if it's, you can't find out who's basically donating to you.
Right.
But now what the GOP is fighting for is an unlimited cap. So anybody can give you any amount of money, and you won't know who's giving you money. So now that's a true oligarchy or an oligarch system.
It's very
So you,
dangerous.
you
because a bunch of high net worth people, worth billions of dollars or maybe even hundred billions of dollars, they can, under certain conditions, to um, get their will across the political spectrum, denying the taxpayers and voters, general voters, for them, their voices will mean nothing or very little. Therefore, all talks about democracy, it would mean absolutely nothing. What kind of democracy you're talking about if a few people, very wealthy people, could actually dictate everything what America is about to do? Now, there is another danger is that Trump's administration and Trump himself, he is subject to great influence of foreign money, especially from um, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar now, and some others, that they will dictate their agenda and say to Trump, with all his military machinery or so on, do exactly what they want to do. So is that means what? America for sale? It means that whoever pays more money can get their will done? I don't understand how that works.
Well, Sasha, you're right on about how that's going to work. I mean, we become mercenaries. That's all it is.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, it looks like that way.
And
So
that's the sad part of where we are now is that yes, we become this. Um, um, we're for hire. Pay us, and we'll do whatever. That's what Trump wants us to do. That bomb boats. You want us to bomb boats? Guess what? Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves. Guess who pays Trump? The oil companies. Who wants to get in there? The oil companies. Who's not allowing them in there right now? Maduro, the country, they're actually controlling that oil. Same thing they did with Chile and the Chilean oil and other oil reserves that are in South America. They're not letting the companies just come in and do whatever. They have to pay the country. Well, you know what? You take out the leader, you put in somebody you want. Guess who gets in there? Gets to have all that oil. The people that are donated to Trump.
Is it just the countries? Is it just the countries, or is it organizations too? Because even FIFA, which is the soccer organization that's doing the
FIFA's
World Cup,
corrupt.
has been accused of breaching its own rules when they gave this Trump award. So they have rules against folks being influenced and everything like that. So they're being accused of breaching their own rules with this Trump award.
well,
Sasha can tell you.
I love soccer, but FIFA is very, very corrupt
Yeah.
organization, and been so for the last several years. If you remember how Russia and then Qatar were awarded their championships, this is absolutely. And by the way, the former president of FIFA, German or Swiss, I forgot, I think German, Blattner, he had to resign, and even Michel Platini, who was his vice president, and he was a brilliant soccer player in the 80s. He had to resign, and so there was quite a big scandal. But there's nothing new. FIFA is a very corrupt organization.
Sounds
You
like
you
Yep.
love it or you hate it. That's the way it is, and
it,
always was.
it
Which
sounds
made
like
that whole Peace Prize thing hilarious. It's like,
yeah, that's just hilarious that they gave him a peace prize and everything. But apparently, he's got Trump has some friends of his that are in trouble and everything like that. Christy Gnomes comes to mind, but also Pete Hetchis, because apparently the admiral that was pushed out by him has been meeting privately with lawmakers. So maybe there's talk of this going on. And even though it's very unlikely that it will happen, I did see that there are some people within the Congress that are presenting articles of impeachment against Trump, and I think that that took place on earlier today. So, is there some kind of fissure or kind of like cracks in Trump's armor and everything like that? So, what is your take on this? Because I'm thinking that this admiral that was meeting with them was telling them some of the things that Hedges has been doing wrong from a military standpoint. Like I said, I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know that, but I would imagine that's what he was doing was pointing out why he shouldn't have been pushed out and some of the things that Pete Hegseth is doing in an incorrect method. But I just wanted y'all's thoughts, one, about the Admiral meeting with the lawmakers, and two, if there is any possibility of impeachment since articles of impeachment were introduced, I think, earlier today.
Yeah, I think it will go this way unless the Congress will invoke Article 25 and they will recognize that Trump is incapacitated, which is probably exactly what's happening right now because he's the way he behaves and the way he conducts himself. I think he's already incapacitated. The only thing is that it has to be initiated by J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance is waiting until all congressmen and lawmakers will back him to start this the proceedings based on Article 25. I think
Exactly. He's not going to do anything until he got once JD hears from the other people. Hey, we're just like Turning Point USA has already said that they were going to try and back JD Vance. That's mainly due to the fact that JD Vance and Charlie Kirk's ex-wife, well, Charlie Kirk's wife, I don't know how you
Charlie Kirk's widow.
Yeah, widow. That's what I was trying to think of the word. Yeah, because they have a relationship of some kind. We won't say what kind of relationship that may be.
Well,
but they are kind of close.
Right now, he's saying that he is still close to his Indian wife and everything like that. So I think he's trying to do some damage control about what people are speculating may be there further than friendship and everything like that. But he is definitely came out, I think it was a couple of days ago, that he was still very much in love with Usher Vance, his wife, and everything like that. But
even though he wouldn't stand up for his wife at the different functions where people were questioning his wife, he just threw her under the bus the whole time. Yeah, he's really, really in love with his wife.
Threw her under the bus, and also was not defend her right to her own religion and everything like that. Because he was like basically saying that she will come around to Christianity at some point or another, but not really defend her right to be of a Hindu background, which is what I believe she is and everything like that. But he didn't want to go there and everything. But with all of this talk and everything, and I wish Rick was here because I know he studies a lot around polls. It seems like Trump's poll numbers are going significantly down, probably the lowest of any president in a long time and everything like that, even lower, I believe, than Biden's at his low points. But I wonder what y'all's take on this, because a lot of people are hitting the grocery stores, hitting the gas stations, hitting the various other things that they have to go to, including school kids with their school supplies, and they're not liking the prices they're seeing.
Well, it's an issue of affordability, and Trump is saying that the affordability is the Democrats' hoax and a lie, and there's nothing around it and so on. But that's not true. The numbers cannot lie, and if the numbers are going north and everything is more expensive than last year, so this is what people notice, and they don't need Trump's insinuations that the inflation is down, the prices are down, or so on. He can say it as much as he wants, but people can see the real prices and the real situation, especially now if they will be hit with the insurance bills, which will make their life really difficult. I don't know how much Trump can keep explaining that inflation is down, prices are down, the stock market is up. Stock market is up, but most of the people don't benefit from the stock market. Most people don't, so they still have to pay much higher prices at the stores. And I think this insurance bills, medical bills, that's what will do the trick, and a lot of people, including independents, they will turn against Trump and Republicans, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they're definitely going to turn because people were mad. I mean, he came in, well, I'm going to lower everything on day one, and now they're going out there to, hey, be patient. That's not going to happen. They're going to turn. They're turning on him now, so that's why his polls are dropping. People used to think he was great for the economy. Well, he's sitting at 36% now. He was at 60 some or 50 some But yeah, it dropped way down. So yeah, people don't trust. People are starting to really not trust him and go, and since especially it's coming up on a year when he said it was just going to take a day for all these things, and then when the Epstein file hit, and this is he still hadn't released the files, and now there's the part where they just allowed for the grand jury testimony with Ghislaine Maxwell. A judge just allowed that. It's just going to get worse now. It's I think his polls are still going to continue to tank, and they're going to do more and more extreme things to try and convince people, hey, look, we're here to protect you. No, you're not. You just starting a fire and giving me the water and then telling me, hey, look, I helped. No, you didn't. You started a fire.
Just think about it. Let's see, Trump is now saying, "Trust me, I will make the prices go lower," and all that stuff. Before you would trust what he's saying, you would ask very simple question: if you are capable of doing that, what you're promising to do, why you haven't done it before? Why didn't you
Exactly.
last month or last year? Why now?
Exactly.
Yeah, folks are
But
wondering that why he didn't
Sasha,
do
you
it
know the
last.
old saying, a sucker's born every minute.
Yeah, focus born every minute and everything like that. But he may be having, I mentioned Hedges and Gnomes, he may be having some other problems because we know the Supreme Court is controlled right now by the conservatives. And it looks like there might be two conservatives that are, at least one I know is noted as a conservative. I think both of them are. But it looks like both Clarence Thomas and Alito are pondering retirement. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes and who he picks to be his Supreme Court judges should those two decide to retire, as this is now a time when they conservatives are definitely in the majority. So I imagine that he would continue to appoint probably even more hardcore conservatives and everything like that. But who knows? He might surprise us. But what is our thoughts? Because Clarence has been there for a minute and Alito has been there for a minute, but they are both pondering retirement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as one can expect, that he will probably find some other conservative judges. But you see, the latest ones that he appointed, they are not 100% for Trump. They're sometimes ruling or make statements which are against Trump and Trumpism. So, but remains to be seen. Even if he will find some conservatives, it doesn't mean that they will be always on his side.
Right. They might
That's
they might fool him and do like the young lady has done that isn't always on his side, and there are a couple of other ones that have definitely broke from him on things. So yeah, he might appoint them, and they may not go the way that he expects them to go because there are some that are more traditionalist in the way that they handle Supreme Court decision. There are some that are more partisan. So it'll be interesting to see which way he goes and whether they actually decide to back it or not, and everything like that. So it looks like the Supreme Court is in the news for rejecting a free speech case over a controversial vanity plate. It's 69 PWNDU is what the license plate is and everything, but they are definitely getting into this whole notion of vanity license plates. So that's one of their cases. And apparently they're also divided, as we talked about, over that GOP effort to lift campaign spending cap. So the Supreme Court's going to be busy for a while and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how these cases play out and what goes on in those situations and everything like that. Oh, by the way, it looks like a Minnesota fraud scheme has unearthed millions in luxury property cars, is what the Department of Justice is saying. And I think part of that is what Nick has been talking about, because I think they were trying to blame it on some of the folks that are of Somalian descent, but I don't think that that is necessarily all that were involved in the case. Have you been following that case at all, either Sasha or Jacoby? Because I'm sure they're trying to, because it's coming out of Fox, painted it as something that was wrong with the Somalian people.
That's something puzzles me a lot. I never met or dealt with Somalian people, and to me, if you would suggest that they're very different from other African people, like whether it's Guinea or Tanzania or say Nigeria and so on. Yeah, okay, so they're all different countries, and of course there would be differences. But in my opinion, when they're coming to America and becoming American citizens, So that would make them more or less similar in a case that, let's see, okay, they're immigrants, but let's see if they make it legally and they got citizenship, they're just American citizens. And some people are doing better than others. It's all depends, but they should be all considered to be legal American citizens, and I don't understand what kind of power Trump is relying on that he can evict all Somali people, even if they are law-abiding citizens of the United States. How he can do that, I don't understand.
Yeah, he seems to be doing a lot of evictions of people and not always having legitimate reasons and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But he doesn't always have to have legitimate reasons to do what he does and everything in that nature. I also saw that, and I know sometimes you talk about housing on your investment show, but there are some people that are saying that the housing market next year is actually going to be doing a reset, like it's going to do better and everything like that. I know a lot of people are still complaining about what's going on in the housing market, both here. I don't know how the housing market is in Canada and everything, but do you think that we're going to see a more improved housing market in 2026? Because it definitely has some downturns this year and everything. Because I guess this woman, Katrina Campins, is arguing that there's going to be a reset for the housing market and things might be improving in that regards. But like I said, I don't see it because I know that even here where I'm at in North Carolina, rents have been going up and have been continuously going up for years now and everything. So, what is your take on this notion of the housing market?
Well, I think it's a lot to do with the local issue, and it really depends on where exactly in countries that property is located. For example, in Toronto area where I live, there is a great downturn in prices, in real estate prices. Great downturn. A lot of apartments are for sale, and even houses. Rents are going down. It will go on, I think, for another year, 2 years, for sure,
Yeah.
until the ebb will flow. Because you see, immigration is still continuous to Canada. So a lot of people are arriving to country.
Yep.
So it's a matter of supply and demand. It will sort itself out. But right now, it's a great downturn, at least in
Well,
the Toronto area.
yeah. Well, speaking of downturns, and we'll get wrap up shortly. We'll wrap this one up a little bit earlier and everything. But it looks like the forever layoffs ever hit a recession trigger as corporations sacked 1.1 million workers through November. So this is from the November report. So a lot of people have been losing their jobs. Part of it because of AI. Part of it because of the corporations trying to maintain their survivability and everything like that. But I just wanted your take on this because it does look like we're still in the middle of some deep layoffs and everything like that. So I just didn't know your thoughts around this. And do you think that we're heading to a recession or maybe even a depression? Because I know some people are concerned that we might even be heading toward a depression, much less a recession. So what is your take on what's going on both here in the U.S. as around the world also?
You see, it's difficult to believe in recession, never mind depression, at the time when everybody's talking about it. It has to come when people the least expect it. So it will be so sudden and so decisive. So people will not be able to sell their portfolios or get out of stocks or so. It has to be very, very strong and big and decisive way. That's how it will happen. This is the reason why I don't hold the stocks right now, only high paid dividend stocks, but not normal stocks. And maybe I'm missing some opportunities here and there. It's quite possible. The only position in stocks that I have is Oracle, and only because tomorrow they have earnings. And even that stock I sold covered calls, so I have protection if there will be not so sweet report and the Oracle will go down. I have about $12 protection. So it
Well,
can go down from 200 and what is now 212, no, 220 something. So it will go to 210 or even below. I'm still okay. So I'm trying to be very conservative, very careful. That's not usual my style, but under the circumstances, I don't want to give back to the market my gains so easily. It's going to be much harder for the market to get my gains. And so tomorrow, by the way, there will be a modern investing show where we are going to discuss all that stuff. Unfortunately, Milan Sombarak, he informed me that in January he starts his new show on Pod TV.
Okay.
So I wish him the best of luck, and but I suggested that it's better if he's not going to be participating in my shows until such time when he will be ready with his new show. Because what he's doing, okay, I never mind that he had his own view, which does not correspond well with a modern investing view of myself and Jim. However, last program, he was very aggressively interrupting me, and that was obvious. I watched this program 2 or 3 times over and over, and I came to the conclusion that he had some kind of agenda where he had some followers or would be followers, where he's trying to convince them that his method of S&P 500 is the right one,
Right.
and what they were doing, Jim and myself, buying individual stocks, it's all wrong. And he was interrupted me several times on my show that it just definitely couldn't work that way. So I think tomorrow it will be myself and Jim, and Mark, you can join us as well. And we'll discuss all the financial matters tomorrow.
We will discuss the financial matters, see what's going on in that financial realm and everything like that, because I know a lot of people have been enjoying your show and getting some good advice. And like I said before, you can probably do like Peter did and start his own show that has to do with his method and everything like that. So we'll see about him getting something like that in January, because I know they're always looking for new shows. And I think we've got 3 new shows coming next year, including one about women empowerment and one about getting older. So that's actually from an agent group in Virginia, but they'll be talking about folks that are older but still are not letting the age dictate their life. So they're still very vibrant, even though they might be in their 80s or 90s or even some in their 70s. And there might even be some that come on the show that are in their century mark and everything like that, but they're still very much involved in various things, whether it's dance or whether it's music or whether it's even their business endeavors. Because sometimes people think that if you get to a certain age, you have to just retire and give up on life, but they're going to try to prove that you can still be vibrant even in your older age and everything like that. So we've got a few new shows that'll be coming up on the network starting in the new year. Butterfly Room is the one that has to deal with women and women's kind of like if they've been through bad situations, trying to find a way to come out of that and become better people and everything. So it's kind of like a self-improvement show and everything along.
Mark, tell me about one thing is a mystery to me. What is the benefit for a network to have, let's see, instead of 30 shows, 60 shows, and instead of 60 shows, 90 shows? What's the benefit to a network to have more?
Well, I mean, a lot of networks have multiple shows. You can look at ABC, you can look at
No,
NBC.
no, no, I have no problem with that, but what's the real benefit for this
Hopefully, and my guess is that, from what my understanding of the way that they done this network in the past, is that each show and each individual brings their own following to the show and everything like that. And if they bring their following, then that increases the following of the network. I know, for example, that Grant McGaw has a very good following. He does the branding show that's every Wednesday called Follow the Brand, and he was having a tremendous following even before he joined the network. So he's brought his people over to the network and everything like that, and then they get something from having those people on. Even the same with Rick Rosner. Rick Rosner has a following of people that like him because of his background with the Kimmel the Kimmel show when he was on Kimmel decades ago and everything like that. And the show that he does with the guy whose father created the Pink Panther and everything like that is very much of a point counterpoint show. So people sometimes like the back and forth argument between a staunch conservative and what I would consider Rick to be, which is either a staunch liberal or a moderate to liberal and everything like that. So some people bring different niches to that, because that's what a lot of it is niche followings, and you're bringing your individual niches and everything. I mean, I imagine that at some point people may approach us because we have the chess show, and I like the chess show that you and Ken and Dan Fleetwood and others do, but checkers is also a popular game, so I won't be surprised if somebody doesn't approach me about us having a checkers show. Nobody has done that yet, but both checkers and backgammon are popular, so, and they have a tremendous following of people in those game markets and everything like that. So I would not be surprised if at some point somebody doesn't approach me and say, let's do a backgammon show or let's do a checker show, because both of those are games that have a tremendous worldwide following. So I think that each show brings a different niche audience to the network, and that would be my guess as to what the benefit is. Because even when we went to that conference, that's what they wanted me to do and I talked to some people, and we're still in talks with them, but that's part of why they wanted me to go to Florida, meaning Nick and Kim, was to find shows to add to the network. So that's what they're trying to do, is add shows. Now, what they consider the maximum, you'd have to ask them. So until they tell me to stop where we've got enough shows to maintain, I imagine that they would love to have enough to go 24/7, and we're going 24/7 now, but some of those shows are rerun. I can even go on a schedule. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but if I went on the schedule, I can even tell you when Ukraine is rerunning, because I know that it reruns on the weekdays, oftentimes at your regular time of 11 o'clock on, let's say you're on Tuesday and Friday. I'm pretty sure it runs Wednesday and Thursday, but you can go on the website and see when the reruns are and everything like that, because we try to keep that updated, me and Sean, who is their engineer and everything. But their goal is to have something 24/7, and if some of those are reruns, that's cool too.
I see. Okay, Mark, thank you so much for covering that.
No
I
problem.
was quite curious. Anyway, bye-bye, everybody.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow on World Edition. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.